Nonna sat on the peeling green bench in Central Park, her gloved hands trembling slightly as she tore pieces of stale sourdough bread for the mallards. To the passing joggers, she was a relic, a fragile widow mourning a time long past, wrapped in a heavy wool coat despite the mild spring air. But 15 feet away, beneath the murky, algae-streaked surface of the pond, Senator Reeves was taking his final thrashing breath, his ankles chained to a cinder block, realizing too late that declining Nonna's zoning permit for the West Side port expansion was a fatal error.
If you value your life and want to be part of the family, subscribe now before the dawn finds you. The ride to the warehouse district in New Jersey was quiet, save for the rhythmic thrum of the windshield wipers fighting against the torrential downpour. I sat in the front passenger seat of the armored Cadillac Escalade, checking the perimeter on the thermal tablet, while Nonna sat in the back. She was humming a hymnal, something from the old country, while knitting a tiny bootie meant for my newborn nephew. The juxtaposition made my stomach churn. The woman had just drowned a United States senator in broad daylight, yet she was concerned about the tension of her yarn. We pulled up to the abandoned shipyard at midnight. The structure was a skeletal beast of rusted iron and corrugated steel, looming against the black sky. This was where the real business happened. The drugs, the weapons, the high-level trafficking that kept politicians in office and dictators in power.
Tonight, however, was about a message. The convoy of 4 black SUVs came to a halt. 12 men, armed with military-grade assault rifles, exited the vehicles immediately, fanning out to secure the perimeter. I opened the rear door for her. The smell of the harbor, salt, rot, and diesel hit us. Nonna stepped out, her orthopedic shoes splashing softly in a puddle. She adjusted her silk scarf, shielding her silver hair from the wind. My arm was ready for her to take, but she waved it away. She walked with a purpose that betrayed her age. Inside the warehouse, the air was stagnant. Under the buzzing halogen lights, a solitary sedan sat parked in the center of the vast concrete floor. It was a silver Mercedes, the kind driven by men who think money can buy immortality. Standing next to the car were Vinny the Butcher and Sal, 2 of our most violent enforcers. They looked pale.
These were men who had dissolved bodies in acid baths without blinking, yet tonight they looked like children called to the principal's office. Nonna approached them, clutching her leathered handbag with both hands. "Is it done?" she asked, her voice soft, rasping like dry leaves over pavement. "Yes, Nonna," Vinny said, his voice cracking. "We intercepted the courier just outside of Teterboro. He didn't want to talk, but we persuaded him." She nodded slowly, reaching into her purse. For a second, the tension in the room spiked. I saw Sal's hand twitch toward his holster, a reflex he immediately regretted. Nonna pulled out a tin of butterscotch candies. She popped one into her mouth and sucked on it thoughtfully. "Open it," she commanded. Vinny moved to the rear of the Mercedes. The trunk pop echoed like a gunshot in the empty space. As the lid rose, the smell hit us instantly, metallic and sweet. Nonna stepped forward, leaning over the bumper.
I moved closer, my hand on my sidearm, though I knew the threat was already neutralized. I looked inside, and the breath left my lungs. It wasn't just a body, it was a mosaic. Inside the trunk lay the remains of Alejandro El Santo Vargas, the son of the Sinaloa cartel's head boss. But he hadn't just been killed, he had been dismantled. His limbs were arranged in a perfect, grotesque symmetry. Sewn into his chest cavity, where his heart should have been, was a clear plastic bag containing 1 kilogram of the purest blue heroin, the product they had tried to cut us out of. And in his mouth, silenced forever, was the gold-plated badge of the DEA agent he had bribed to turn on us. The brutality was absolute. It was a declaration of war against the Mexican cartels and the US federal government simultaneously. Nonna stared at the carnage with the same critical eye she used to inspect produce at the market.
She reached out, her hand steady, and adjusted the dead man's collar, wiping a speck of blood from his cheek with her thumb. "Sloppy work on the stitching, Vincent," she murmured, disappointed. "I taught you better. The thread is pulling at the skin. It looks rushed." "I'm sorry, Nonna," Vinny whispered, staring at his boots. "We were under a time crunch. The feds were circling." She turned to face us, her eyes hard as diamonds. The frail grandmother was gone. In her place stood the matriarch, the shadow ruler of the eastern seaboard. "This boy thought he could bypass our ports," she said, her voice echoing in the rafters. "He thought because I am old, I am weak. He thought he could steal from my family." She slammed the trunk shut with a force that shook the car. "Wrap the car, send it back to his father in Mexico City, mark it as return to sender, and put a ribbon on it, a red one." She turned to me, the scent of lavender and old lace wafting from her coat.
"Consigliere, call the senator's replacement. Tell him congratulations on his sudden promotion. Tell him his grandmother sends her love and that I expect the zoning permits on my desk by Monday morning, or he can join his predecessor for a swim." She began walking back toward the SUVs, stopping only to look back at the terrified hitmen. "And Vinny? Yes, Nonna? Come by the house Sunday. Bring the kids. I'm making lasagna. You look too thin." She stepped into the darkness of the rainy night, leaving us alone with the devil's cargo. The war had begun, and God help anyone who stood in the way of the little old lady in the wool coat. The rain drummed a relentless rhythm against the bulletproof glass of the Rolls-Royce Phantom as we navigated the slick streets of industrial New Jersey back toward the sanctuary of Long Island. I sat in the driver's seat, my knuckles white on the leather steering wheel. In the rearview mirror, Nonna was illuminated by the soft glow of a reading light. She wasn't reviewing hit lists or counting casualty reports. She was flipping through a coupon book for the local grocery store, circling discounts on fabric softener and canned peaches with a red felt-tip pen. The juxtaposition made my stomach turn. We had just declared war on the most dangerous cartel in the Western Hemisphere, and she was worried about saving 50 cents on detergent. "Nonna," I said, breaking the silence that had stretched for miles. "The accounts in the Caymans. With Vargas dead, the federal watchdogs are going to sniff around the transfers. If the Sinaloa connection is exposed, the assets we have parked in the labyrinth of shell companies will freeze." She didn't look up. Her pen scratched against the paper. "Let them sniff, Marco. Dogs sniff before they bite, but if you feed them a steak laced with ground glass, they stop barking soon enough. Have you spoken to the contacts at the Vatican Bank?" I nodded, checking the side mirrors for a tail. "It was habit, though no one would be foolish enough to follow this car tonight." "Cardinal Rossi is hesitant," I replied. "He says the heat from the European Union regulators is increasing. He wants to raise his laundering fee to 15%. Nonna stopped writing. She closed the coupon book slowly and placed it in her purse next to the butterscotch tin and, presumably, her pearl-handled .22 caliber pistol. 15%, she mused, her voice dangerously low. "Greed is a terrible sin, Marco, even for a man of the cloth. Tell His Eminence that if he wishes to renegotiate, I will happily send Vinny to confession. I am sure the Cardinal has sins he would prefer remain between him and God, rather than him and the press." She looked out the window at the passing city lights, the empire she had built on bones and heroin. "Move the liquid assets through the charity foundation instead," she ordered. "The Orphans of St. Jude Fund. No one audits orphans."
"We need that capital clean by Friday to pay for the shipment coming in from Ukraine. The javelins won't pay for themselves, and our buyers in Yemen are getting impatient." I swallowed hard. Anti-tank missiles masked as humanitarian grain shipments. It was a play that would destabilize an entire region, but to Nonna, it was just another Tuesday transaction. If you were in the passenger seat, would you dare tell her the accounts were already frozen, or would you lie to buy time? Tell me your move. We pulled up to the iron gates of the estate, a sprawling fortress disguised as a classic Victorian manor. The grounds were impeccable, manicured by men who were better with sniper rifles than garden shears. As the gate swung open, I saw the familiar black sedan of Mr. Sterling, our primary liaison with the political elite, parked in the driveway. He was waiting on the porch, shivering in his trench coat, looking like a man standing on the gallows. Nonna waited for me to open her door. She stepped out, smoothing her skirt, and transformed instantly. The ruthless kingpin vanished. The sweet, doting grandmother appeared. "Oh, Mr. Sterling," she cried out, spreading her arms. "You're catching your death out here. Come inside, come inside. I have a kettle on."
Sterling looked at me with eyes screaming for help, but I just ushered him into the foyer. The house smelled of lavender and lemon polish. It was disarming. It was designed to be. We moved into the parlor, a room filled with antique porcelain dolls that seemed to watch every transaction with dead, glassy eyes. Nonna sat in her floral armchair and gestured for Sterling to sit on the stiff sofa opposite her. She poured tea from a silver service, her hand steady. "Drink," she commanded softly. "It's chamomile, good for the nerves. You look like you've seen a ghost, Arthur." Sterling took the cup, the china rattling against the saucer. "Nonna, Mrs. Moretti," he stammered. The senator found the horse head."
The message was received, but he's terrified. He's talking about going to the FBI for protection. He says he can't push the zoning for the new port terminal. The oversight committee is watching him too closely. Nonna set her cup down, her eyes crinkling in a smile that didn't reach her irises. "Arthur, dear, have a biscuit. I made them this morning." He hesitated. "Eat the biscuit, Arthur," I said, my hand resting on the back of his sofa. He took a bite, chewing dryly. Nonna set her cup down. The clink was the loudest sound in the room. "The senator is confused, Arthur. He thinks he has a choice. He thinks the FBI can protect him from me. Do you know where the FBI buys their office furniture? From a company owned by my Shell Corporation in Delaware. Do you know who supplies the fuel for their convoy vehicles? A logistics firm my nephew runs out of Jersey. I am in the walls, Arthur. I am in the floorboards." She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You tell the senator that if the zoning permits are not signed by Monday, I will release the photos of him and that young page boy from the retreat in Aspen. And then, after his career is in ashes, I will have him skinned. But not before I skin you for failing to control your asset." Sterling choked on a crumb. He coughed violently, his face turning red. Nonna just watched him, her expression one of mild concern, like he was a grandchild who had eaten too fast. "Do we understand each other?" she asked sweetly. Yes, Nonna. I'll handle it. Tonight." "Good boy. Take some cookies for the road. Your wife loves the almond ones, doesn't she? How is she? Still recovering from that unfortunate car accident?" It was a threat, veiled in courtesy. Sterling nodded, gathered his coat, and practically ran out the front door. Sterling is sweating through his suit. Does he take the deal and sell his soul, or try to run and lose his life? What is the price of your integrity? As the door clicked shut, the warmth left the room. Nonna stared at the dregs of her tea. "He's weak, Marco. Weak men are dangerous. They crack under pressure." I walked to the window, watching Sterling's taillights fade. "I'll put a detail on him. If he deviates from the route to the senator's house, we'll know." She stared into the flames. "The raid at the warehouse. The feds arrived 11 minutes after we left. That is not a coincidence. That is precise intelligence. They knew exactly when the work on the Vargas boy would be finished." My blood ran cold. The circle of trust was small, incredibly small. "You think we have a leak?" I asked. "I don't think, Marco. I know. Someone in this family is singing. Someone sat at my table, ate my pasta, kissed my cheek, and then sold me to the wolves." She turned to face me, and for the first time in 20 years, I saw true malice in her eyes. Not business malice, personal malice. The Vargas boy was a message to our enemies. The next body will be a message to our friends. She pulled a small burner phone from her apron pocket, a device I didn't know she had. She tossed it onto the coffee table. "That phone rang while you were parking the car. It was a text, 3 words, Bluebird has flown. Bob was the code for the DEA agent we had on our payroll, the one whose badge we just stuffed in a dead man's mouth. If the text came now, it means someone else was running him, someone inside." Paranoia settled over the room like a heavy blanket. I mentally scanned the crew. Vinny, too stupid. Sal, too loyal. The accountants, maybe. "Find the rat, Marco," she whispered, gripping the fire poker until her knuckles turned white. "Find them and bring them to the kitchen. I want to look them in the eye while I prepare the sauce.
She walked toward the kitchen, the sweet little old lady once more. I'm going to make gnocchi. It takes a long time to roll the dough properly. You have until the water boils. She disappeared into the hallway, leaving me alone with the porcelain dolls and the terrible realization that the next funeral I attended might be for someone I loved. The war with the cartel was just the storm outside. The real danger was the rot inside the house. Who is the rat? The driver, the butcher, with a banker? Drop your suspect in the comments. I stepped out into the biting cold of the driveway, the gravel crunching under my dress shoes like small bones breaking. The heavy oak door closed behind me, sealing the warmth and the scent of rosemary inside. Out here, the air smelled of exhaust and impending violence. I had 20 minutes before the water boiled. In Nonna's world, deadlines were not suggestions, they were lifespans. I pulled my collar up and dialed Vinny. He picked up on the first ring.
Where are you? I asked, my voice tight. At the port, boss. Container 42 just landed. The toys from Ukraine. We're moving them to the distribution trucks now. Hold the shipment, I ordered. Marco, the buyers are already en route. The cartel representatives from Juarez are expecting the javelins by midnight. We delay, and they start thinking we're selling them dud inventory. I don't care if the cartel is expecting the second coming of Christ. We have a leak. Until I plug it, nothing leaves the family. Lock it down. And Vinny, if a single crate goes missing, I will personally feed you to the pigs at the upstate farm. I hung up before he could argue. The business was vast, a sprawling octopus with tentacles in every dark corner of the globe, but right now it felt suffocatingly small. We were moving $50 million in military-grade hardware through a sanitation department contract Nonna had secured in the 80s, yet one loose tongue could bring the whole empire crashing down. I got into my car and sped toward the safe house in Queens. It was disguised as a failing dry-cleaning business, Nonna's little joke about laundering. Inside, the back room was a hum of high-speed counting machines and server racks. This was the nervous system. Julian, our chief accountant, was sweating over a ledger when I kicked the door open. He jumped, knocking a stack of $100 bills onto the linoleum. Marco, Jesus, you scared me. Is Nonna okay? Did she get the almond flour? Forget the flour, Julian. Who had access to the Bluebird file? He adjusted his glasses, his hands trembling. The Bluebird file was the payroll list for our corrupt federal agents. Access was restricted to 3 people, me, Nonna, and the head of security, Polly. Polly. My stomach turned. Shout this been with us since the Bronx days. He drove Nonna to church on Sundays. He held the umbrella over her head when it rained. Check the access logs, I commanded, pulling my pistol and placing it on the desk. Now. Julian's fingers flew across the keyboard, the blue light of the monitor reflected in his terrified eyes. There was a login 2 nights ago, he stammered. It bypassed the encryption using a legacy password, one that hasn't been changed in 10 years. Whose password? Julian swallowed hard. He looked at the gun, then at me. Yours, Marco. The room spun. I hadn't logged in for a month. Someone was framing me, or someone close enough to me to know my old habits was selling us out. I grabbed Julian by his tie, hauling him over the desk. Trace the IP address. If you lie to me, Julian, I will make sure the IRS finds out about that offshore account you think we don't know about. I am staring down the barrel of a betrayal.
If you were in my shoes, would you trust the data or your gut instinct? Loyalty is a currency that depreciates fast. Tell me your move. It's not external, Julian wheezed. The login came from inside the house. The Wi-Fi at the estate. The estate. Nonna's house. I dropped him. The rat wasn't just in the family. The rat was literally in the living room. I thought of the faces I had left behind. The bodyguards, the maids, the young recruits Nonna called her little helpers. I ran back to the car. The drive back was a blur of red lights and adrenaline. I called Nonna. "Hello, Marco dear," she answered, her voice serene over the roar of my engine. "Did you pick up the basil? The store-bought stuff is wilting." "Nonna, listen to me. The leak came from the house. It's one of the boys. Do not, I repeat, do not let anyone leave." There was a pause on the line. I heard the distinct sound of a wooden spoon tapping against a pot. I know, dear. You know?
I saw young Leo on his phone in the garden while I was dusting the blinds. He looked very nervous for a boy who's supposed to be guarding the perimeter. He was typing Marco, and he wasn't smiling like he was texting a girl. Leo, Polly's nephew, the kid we took in when his father got life at ADX Florence. We paid for his braces. We paid for his college. Is he still there? I asked, pressing the accelerator to the floor. He is currently tied to the chair in the dining room, Nonna said, her voice light and airy. He tried to run when I offered him an espresso. Poor thing tripped over my knitting bag. I may have helped him trip with the fire poker. Don't touch him, Nonna. I'm 5 minutes out. I'll handle it. Hurry up, Marco. The water is boiling, and I hate overcooked gnocchi. I skidded into the driveway, tires smoking. I burst through the front door, gun drawn. The warmth of the house hit me again, but this time it smelled of garlic, sage, and fear.
In the dining room, Leo was bound with heavy yarn, Nonna's knitting yarn, which was surprisingly strong. His face was bruised and he was weeping silently. Nonna stood over him, wearing a floral apron that was spotless. She held a silver ladle like a scepter. "He admits it," she said, not looking up from the boy. "The feds squeezed him, threatened to revoke his mother's parole, so he gave them the warehouse. He gave them the agent." Leo looked at me, eyes pleading. "Marco, please. They said they'd take my mom. I didn't have a choice." "There is always a choice, Leonardo," Nonna said softly. She reached out and patted his cheek. Her hand looked fragile, like parchment paper, but I knew the grip strength she possessed. "You chose your mother over this family. That is noble. It is stupid, but noble." She turned to me. "The arms deal, Marco. Is it secure?" I paused. "No. If Leo talked, the feds know about the port. They know about the javelins." "Cancel it," she said. "Nonna, that's $50 million.
The cartel will go to war. Let them, she snapped, her eyes flashing with that terrifying fire. I would rather lose the money and fight a war than let the FBI catch us with our pants down. Burn the shipment. Burn it? You heard me. Tell Vinny to torch the container. If we can't have it, nobody gets it. And send a message to the cartel. Tell them we discovered a defect in the merchandise and destroyed it for their safety. We will replace it next month with interest. That is how honorable businessmen behave." I nodded, pulling out my phone to give the order that would turn $50 million into ash. We are about to burn a fortune to save our freedom. Would you have the stomach to torch $50 million, or would you try to run the gauntlet? The stakes are life in prison or a pile of ash. Make your choice. I made the call. Vinny screamed on the other end, but he obeyed.
Within minutes, a fire would be raging on the Jersey docks, confusing the authorities and frustrating our buyers. "Now," Nonna said, turning back to Leo, "what do we do with this one?" Leo was sobbing now. "Nonna, please, I'm sorry. She sighed, a sound of deep, grandmotherly disappointment. She walked back to the kitchen and returned with a plate of steaming gnocchi in a rich tomato sauce. She set it down on the table in front of him. "Eat," she commanded. Leo blinked, confused. "What? I made this for you. You're too thin. The stress is eating you alive. Eat." He hesitated, then leaned forward, eating awkwardly with his hands since his arms were bound. He took a bite, then another. He was starving, terrified, and confused. "It's good, Nonna," he choked out. "I know it is," she said. "I used fresh basil." She watched him eat the entire plate.
It was a surreal tableau, the weeping trader, the comfort food, and the matriarch of the most powerful crime syndicate in the Northern Hemisphere watching him with sad eyes. When he was finished, she wiped his mouth with a napkin. "You enjoyed that?" "Yes, Nonna." "Good. It is important to have a good meal before a long journey." She looked at me. "Take him to the basement, Marco. The soundproofing is better down there. And call the cleanup crew. I don't want a mess on the rugs." "Nonna," I started. "He was just a kid." She walked up to me, grabbing my lapels. She pulled me down until our faces were inches apart.
She smelled of lavender and old lace. He is a cancer, Marco. You cut out the cancer, or the body dies. Do you want to die? Do you want me to die in a federal prison hospital? No, Nonna. Then do your job. She released me and smoothed my jacket. I'm going to watch my soaps. Volume 4. Don't disturb me unless the house is on fire.
She picked up her tea and shuffled toward the living room, looking for all the world like a sweet old lady ready for a nap. I looked at Leo. The hope had vanished from his eyes. He knew. We all knew. I untied his legs and hoisted him up. "Come on, kid," I said, my voice hollow. "Let's go downstairs. The basement door is open. The darkness below is absolute. This is the grim reality of the underworld. There is no resignation letter, only a final exit. Who is the real villain here? The boy who betrayed his family to save his mother, or the grandmother who enforces the code? Cast your verdict." As I guided him toward the cellar door, Nonna's voice floated down the hallway, sweet and melodic. "Marco?" "Yes, Nonna? Make sure you lock the back door when you leave. We don't want any burglars getting in. It's a dangerous neighborhood." I closed the basement door behind us, shutting out the light, shutting out the world, leaving only the darkness and the duty. The water had boiled. The pasta was cooked. And the bill had come due. Years later, the federal investigation collapsed. Nonna sat on her veranda, icing a cake for the senator she now owned. "True power is invisible, Marco," she murmured, sliding a dossier into the oven fire. "It is outliving those who shout." She wiped flour from her hands, the blood long washed away. "If you are loyal to the grandma, comment La Familia and share this record." The sun set over the vineyard, casting long shadows across the heavy security detail perimeter. I stood by the patio doors, gray at the temples now, watching her hands work with steady precision. She was 90 years old, yet her piping of the vanilla frosting was flawless. The senator sat opposite her, sweating despite the cool evening breeze. He had come to negotiate terms, but he had forgotten the first rule of this house. You do not negotiate with the grandmother. You apologize and accept your allowance. She placed a perfectly candied cherry on the center of the cake.
"Eat, Senator," she said, her voice soft, like dried leaves rustling. "It is my grandmother's recipe, just like the dossier I sent to your wife is my own creation." The senator's hand trembled as he reached for the fork. "Nonna, please, the committee hearings, I cannot stop them. The FBI is too close." "You are a powerful man, Robert," she interrupted, picking up her knitting needles. The wool was a deep blood red. "But even powerful men have mothers and grandmothers. We are the ones who stitch the world together, and we are the ones who can pull the thread and watch it all unravel." She looked up, her blue eyes sharp, devoid of the dementia the world assumed she suffered from. "Stop the hearings, or I stop the medication for your son's condition. The pharmaceutical company is mine, after all. I bought it this morning. For you." The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. The senator took a bite of the cake. He chewed, swallowed, and nodded. The war was over.
She had not fired a single shot, yet she had conquered Washington from her veranda. "Good boy," she smiled, returning to her knitting. "Marco, wrap a slice for the senator to take home, and put the deed to the Port of Miami in his briefcase. We need a place to park the new shipments." I stepped forward, the weight of her legacy pressing down on me. She was not just a crime lord. She was a force of nature, an inevitability wrapped in a cardigan. As the senator left, broken and owned, she looked at me and winked. "Never let them see the wolf, Marco," she whispered, the clicking of her needles keeping time with the fading light. "Only the grandmother. People always open the door for a grandmother. The empire was safe, the blood was hidden, and Nonna was eternal. If you are loyal to the grandma, comment La Familia and share this record."